All right.
Telecommunications media such as Facebook, Twitter, cell phones, especially smartphones, email, and any other device or application that allows us to communicate in a nonverbal manner is undoubtedly a huge technological advancement for today's society. This form of nonverbal communication is also very beneficial in many ways. It's fast and easy, it helps us keep in contact over long distances, and it is a good way of saving money because it's very expensive to travel from place to place in order to keep in contact with someone. However, can we ask that is nonverbal communication through telecommunications media a detriment on our ability to converse verbally? My main claim is that the growing use of telecommunications media has a negative effect on human interpersonal interaction. I justify this by saying that people should moderate their usage of telecommunications devices because it harms their ability to socialize and communicate with others on a personal level. My supporting claims are telecommunications take up time that could be used spending with friends and family and engaging in face-to-face conversation. Second, telecommunications media negatively affects a person's ability to express his or her ideas clearly to others. And third, social media can harm how we display ourselves in a professional environment. Firstly, about telecommunications taking up much of our time, which we could be used spending with friends and family. I have to ask you guys, have you ever been walking to class while texting or Instagramming or Facebooking and then realized that you just walked past a friend without even saying hello to them? This has definitely happened to me and I surely regret it. When I actually do get my face out of the phone, I see it happening everywhere. I just see people like listening to their iPods or just with their face down. And I find it really sad that while we're in an environment where we're surrounded by our peers, that we spend most of our time blocking everyone out. According to the 2009 Digital Future Report, 80% of Americans use the internet. This same article asserts that certain internet users, separated by light users and heavy users, spend varying amounts of time per week online. Light users would spend an average of 2.8 hours per week online, while heavy users spend an astounding 42 hours per week online. Altogether, US internet users spent an average of 17 hours online in 2009 alone, and this percentage has increased to an average of 18.3 hours according to the 2011 Digital Future Project presented by USC Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism. Secondly, telecommunications media has a negative effect on a person's ability to express his or her ideas clearly to others. Common text abbreviations and symbols such as TTYL, LOL, or happy face, as well as casual language and slang, are not widely accepted by all audiences. Parents are often confused by their children when they text one another. For example, my mother used to think LOL meant lots of love, which, although touching to her, would not often make sense in context with our conversations. This method of oversimplifying one's speech leaves people without practice in real-world speech. Thirdly, and my last supporting claim, is that social media, like informal language, can harm how we display ourselves in a professional environment. Technological slang is a language in its own right, but it is strictly informal and should be limited to only being in telecommunications media. If an individual uses slang terminology in a professional interaction, such as a job interview with an employer, they are much less likely to reap the maximum benefits from that interaction. Also, people often post inappropriate content on Facebook, as well as other social networks, that can make an individual look unqualified or unwanted in a professional setting. According to a study presented by Rappler, a social media management company, 91% of employers screen their job applicants over Facebook. 47% of employers screen job applicants online just after receiving an application, so like, application, okay, let's check them out. And most overwhelmingly, 67% of employers have rejected a job applicant because of what they saw on a social networking site. Being connected to social media and telecommunication can really hurt a person's life by simply a few clicks of a mouse or keyboard, depending on what they post. In conclusion, telecommunication media harms our ability to interact in face-to-face with others because it takes up time, impairs our ability to display our ideas and thoughts effectively, and keeps us from being able to communicate in a professional environment. I end with a quote according to UCLA psychiatry professor Gary Small: "Even though this generation of tech-savvy adolescents is very good with tech skills, they are weak with face-to-face human contact skills." Thank you.
Good thing I went first.
All right, Austin, the claim is very clear. The secondary points are laid out. There's a transition point between the claim and the preview that actually suggests a policy claim, so you want to be a little bit careful about that. I think that you do a good job talking about how this is a growing issue, that there might be reasons to be concerned with it. But I do think that most of your reasons for being concerned are hypothetical in nature. The best part of the argument that talks about risks and negative consequences is the employment issue, and you've got very good data here about the employers using this data, and how many of them look for it, and how many of them have used it to screen candidates out. What's missing here is that there's some negative consequence of this. To me, that sounds like it's one of those things that they would do anytime they got access to information, depending upon what the information was. That that 2/3 of them have used information from a online social media in order to screen somebody out. What we don't get is what kinds of things did they use to screen people out. Who their clubs or groups or organizations were, political opinions, lifestyle choices, any of those kinds of things. That would seem to be something threatening. On the other hand, if it turned out that the person was, did something violent or had something in their past or made threatening things or used language like you talked about, I could see why somebody would say, well, I don't want somebody who speaks like that working for me. So it would be helpful. That's the follow-up information that you're going to need. So I think you went as far as you could with that. Everything else is very hypothetical. The examples that you use on the acronyms and the emoticons and that sort of thing they're okay, but I don't know that anybody's really had that kind of problem. Your mother maybe doesn't understand what LOL means, and I'm sure that there are others who are confused by a lot of those online acronyms, but most of the people who send them know that the people that they're sending them to understand that. So what I'm looking for is more information about the problem that it has with communication. Like I said, you've got a single example here and maybe a couple of hypotheticals that I think need to be stronger. That piece of evidence that you finished with, the testimony, that really sounded like it belonged on the first point where you were talking about face-to-face interaction suffering because we're so dependent on these type of media. I thought you did a nice job presenting and a pretty good summary also. All right, thank you.